What's going on, everybody? It's your boys over know this off DFS, here to bring you guys a DFS slate breakdown and a couple of prop plays for the 6-game NBA slate we got today. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you guys can be subbed to the channel so you don't miss any of the content I do put over here for it. Of course, as always, we take a break on the weekends, and hopefully if you guys are sub to the Patreon, you definitely will still getting my player pool, my prop plays, and all that good stuff. Unfortunately, not every day is a green day over here for the DFS, which is it's daily fantasy sports. Some days you're gonna hit pretty good, some days you're not. But that's why it's bankroll management, just like it is with sports betting and things like that. And either way, we still are putting out some really good stuff over here. DFS didn't do too hot. Cores didn't do bad over here. I will say that. Only had one flop really, which was inside my main core was Noah Clowney. Got him on the worst shoot night of his life. But Cole Anthony, Casey Wallace, Kristaps Porzingis, all as you can see, all those guys fire. Clowney just completely killed it. Yabusele killed me, and then Hartenstein blowout. I can't do anything about that, which was just my personal feelings. And then for the main slate, Lonzo Ball, of course, starting. That was kind of a no-brainer from right there. Hardy got him on, just regressed to horrible shooting for him over there. OG really thought he would have been able to do a little something in the line for me, just completely killed it for me. But hey, those alt lines and stuff, as you guys have realized, I'm very heavy on alt lines. I really focus more on the alt lines than the regular lines that Vegas gives us, just simply because I feel like those lines over here that Vegas gives us, it's a 7% chance that it'll hit, 30% chance, well, 7% chance that it won't hit, 30% chance that it will hit, and you are really just paying Vegas for the coin flip. So why not just put the odds more in your favor? Yes, it's not pretty sexy and stuff to have to play these lines and everything. You're not going to get the big $2,000 wins and stuff like that, but with the proper bankroll building, you're going to be making your money in the long run. So that's really what I focus on, focusing more on the quality over the quantity of what it is that I'm putting out over here. And if you've been following, you've been pairing up these plays, you've been figuring it out on your own, taking stuff that you like as well, you definitely have been doing pretty well over here. Yesterday, I gave out NBA and I also did NFL. NFL parlay personally that I played, it missed, only a couple of misses right there. But all the other plays that I put up over there for the NFL, crushed it. Really went with some good lines that I did like, and definitely if you paired up some of these for the favorite plays that you liked in those games, or you felt a certain way, you definitely did well over here. Again, $5. Link for that down in the description below. You're getting a lot of sauce over here. Not only my stuff, but my boy BK, my boy Jay, he's over here posting stuff as well. So definitely check that out. And if not, just subscribe to the channel. You guys get some pretty good content over here with this DFS breakdown and stuff like that. But all right, now that we got all that out of the way, let's go ahead. Let's do some injury report and things before we go ahead and break this down over there on DraftKings. Minnesota Timberpups on the playing against Washington, who's on the back end of back-to-back. Got their asses blown out yesterday. They should be full to go. Nothing new for Minnesota. The only weird thing is that they constantly put Anthony Edwards as the 2 in this right here, but then when the lineup comes out, they have Ant, quote unquote, as the 1, and then Dante is the 2. Not really too sure if that matters or not. I see the ball is in both their hands almost equally to me personally. So that right there really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anyway. This is Washington easiest matchup for anybody because they play a lick of none defense out here. Anyway, for the Washington Wizards, Brogdon is a game time decision. Bagley, Sadiq Bey, they're going to be out. Detroit, Jaden Ivey, of course, he is still out. Brunson, game time decision with that calf thing that he's been having going on. They put belt to ass yesterday too, by the way. They legit, Brunson was on one. Not surprised for the game time decision tag, but that game also was a blowout that the New York Knicks were in yesterday. So kind of not too sure about that tag, but he should be good to go into play today. If he's out, we already know what we're gonna do over there. Golden State Warriors, their stuff came out yesterday. All their main guys for Curry, Draymond Green, Wiggins, they're all gonna be back. Kuminga is really the only other main guy that's gonna be out. Toronto Raptors quickly just popped up on the injury report, so game time decision. We'll see what's going on with that closer to lock. For Memphis Grizzlies, no real news that we got to worry about for them. They got Job back last game. He's back. He's good to go. This is a rematch because they just played Houston not too long ago. Actually, I want to say their last game they just played was versus Houston, if I'm not mistaken. Houston, Tari Easton doubtful to play. Miami, Jimmy Butler, he's still out on his suspension. Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, he's back. He's expected to play today. And then the late game, which I don't believe is actually on the main slate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, it might actually be on. It is on the main slate. Sorry, I lied. San Antonio Spurs, Sochan, game time decision, might be playing today. And then for the Los Angeles Lakers, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, they always pop on the injury report, but they fully are expected to play. So we're not got to worry about anything over there. Heading on over to DraftKings, the site I play the most on the site. If you guys don't got an account, you want one, check the link down in the description below so you guys can get that deposit match bonus and join your boy over here on the King. So again, like I said, Didn't have the best day yesterday, DFS wise, but hopefully we are looking to bounce back today. Not a bad slate of games. Definitely some spots we want to figure out where we want to attack, focus on, things of that nature. Of course, possible blowout in this Minnesota versus Washington Wizards game. This was going to be we can hopefully figure it out. When it comes down to the Wizards, it's really just a pick of who's going to actually be able to go off. We saw last night, Shea, he went out there, still dropped 30 plus points on him, put up, I want to say 50 something fantasy points, but barely paid off that 10K price tag. Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, those guys, it's really going to be who do we think actually will be able to pay off their price tag versus the Washington Wizards team. Of course, you're going to want to get something from Minnesota. All their guys are in play. Ant, Julius, Dante, sadly, Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, all those guys, all in contention, all guys I wouldn't mind going to, definitely in consideration. Surprisingly, I have to say that Rudy does have a good matchup. I mean, centers versus the Wizards has been a thing. Only thing is that he's such a low usage player, but I do know he can get going if they actually were to feed him. He just doesn't take enough shots for me. It's very definitely, of course, offensive putbacks. Maybe if he could catch someone lacking things like that, that's really where we see him excel. If it's any consolation prize, of course, Towns was on the team last year. He dropped 50 fantasy points versus them both games that he played versus them last season. So there's that. But his 50-point games this season has been very much far and in between. If we want to look at anything, I would say this is almost like a matchup when he played the Pelicans, where he was able to go out there, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 6 blocks, and 7 points. Really, it was those blocks that got him there. If he definitely can rack up the blocks here in the spot, I can see it. But definitely will be a ton of rebounds with the way that the Wizards chuck a whole bunch of shots. Now, if you're worried about that, I can see just going with someone like Julius Randle, who is more offensive inclined in this matchup and in this game. I actually really do like him here in the spot. Anthony Edwards, if he's going to go back to chucking like what he was the last couple of games, definitely kind of fell back in that last game versus Memphis, only 29.25 fantasy points, and it was a Dante DiVincenzo show, which 5,400 for Dante. And you're telling me he can go out there and give me a ceiling of 50? Of course, I'm definitely going to have that on my radar. Rebounding out there, pretty good clip. We know that he can stuff stat sheet. He can play make, get you those assists and things like that, and will play some defense. So Dante, kind of looking like New York Dante right now, getting those shots up, 6 of 11. This could be another shootout right here for him. If I do have to choose over here, I say Randall, Dante would be my favorite 2 players over here from the Timber Pups. When it comes down to it, over on the Washington Wizards side. And then, of course, Anthony Edwards would be more GPP. I do see him probably being lower owned just because we do have Steph Curry on the slate, Cade Cunningham, depending on what goes on with Brunson in that New York game. So there's definitely pivots that you can get to in regards to Ant, and not too sure how well or how close this game could possibly be. Over there on the Washington Wizards side, if you think that they can somehow keep this game close, of course, it's going to be in back of Poole actually doing something. Kuzma is completely on the auto fade list. I will not play Kuzma for anything at all whatsoever. 6,200, 4K, 3K, shit. Even if they made him the minimum, 2K, I am not playing Kuzma at all whatsoever. Never. But game blows out, possible young guys go out there, get some decent runs, Sar, Bali, things like that. I'm not too really inclined on trying to get to really into these Wizards pieces. I definitely think they have some room for GPP if you do think that they can actually keep it close after getting spanked yesterday. Hey, let me come back out here with a vengeance or whatnot, try to come out here and actually show a little something that they actually have heart. Cool. By all means, go ahead, but I'm not too focused or even worried about going there to them. Golden State Warriors versus Toronto. Of course, they got the main guys back in Curry and Draymond Green. Draymond Green, I do actually like the matchup. We have seen opposing power forwards, especially those that can pass, that can rebound, and they leave him open. He will knock down some shots. But power forwards have actually done pretty well versus the Toronto Raptors. Even with Scotty Barnes being out there, of course, decent out there on the defensive side, but has a lot to work on. Green, 5,700. We do know that the dude practically is a really good ball handler, can dish the rock very well. If you can give me something like about that 30-ish fantasy points, I do like the upside for what he can bring, especially if he keeps his fouls down and can play his normal load of minutes. The upside is definitely there for him. Don't hate that at all, but outside of that, I will say that opposing centers has been a thing, and Tracy Jackson Davis, as long as he gets the minutes, doesn't get in foul trouble, the kid is showing that he can hoop, and I do like the upside for him, even though they're giving Looney some actual minutes and stuff now lately. But 5,600 for a center going up against the Toronto Raptors versus Jakob Poeltl, kind of the same build and style out there. definitely like Tracy Jackson Davis here in that spot. So if I got to choose between two, I wouldn't mind going with Tracy Jackson Davis over Draymond Green instead, just because more of an offensive upside than what Draymond Green actually is going to bring to the table. And he can still get those defensive stats and blocks and the steals and things of that nature. Outside of that, of course, Steph Curry, I don't have to mention that. I don't have to talk about it. But Steph Curry, 8,800. We just need to see the Steph Curry old, the scoring Steph Curry and things like that. Granted, back-to-back games of at least 40 fantasy points in his last two versus Detroit and Miami, two decent teams who actually can defend the point guard decently. Miami, a little bit more lackadaisy, but Detroit actually has defended the point guard pretty well. I will say last game, Toronto played versus the point guard, Cade Cunningham, 69 fantasy points. Very much improved three-point shooter, the assists, and everything that he does. If Curry's going to go out here and is rebounding, playing some defense, dishing the rock, and actually getting some with Wiggins being back, definitely able to get some assists flowing and going out there, and can go out here and give me at least 20-ish points. Definitely love the upside for what we can get. I mean, shoot, they just let back-to-back point guards actually versus Toronto go off for 60 fantasy points. Cade Cunningham and Darius Garland. Can Steph Curry be the third? Definitely one of those players that can do that. Love the possibility of what we could possibly get for Steph Curry here in this matchup. Going over to the Toronto Raptors. Oh, sorry, forgot also to mention Andrew Wiggins. He's there. Hopefully he's not distracted with what's going on with the fires and stuff and everything. I want to say he was gone for personal, which I'm pretty sure was to deal with the fires. Same thing with Kawhi. So hopefully he's good to go. We do know how mentally things have been for him in the past. So hopefully that does not affect him here today. Going back to his home state, if you want to call it, Canada, playing up there. So maybe he might put on a show. Toronto, regular suspects. If Quick is going to be out, then that's definitely going to boost up Scotty Barnes for his playmaking and everything. All right, there, ball being in his hands, he is technically like a de facto point guard, especially when Quickly or Quick is on the bench and things like that. So upside definitely would be there for Scotty. Like him here. Once again, no, he's a stat sheet stuffer, definitely taking a ton of shots, very integral part of the offense. Love the upside for what he can bring. Same thing for Jakob Poeltl. Don't mind going to him as well if Quick was to miss. The upside could be there. And then Poeltl, he is another integral part for this team. Definitely they do need the scoring. He rebounds very well. He's playing some pretty good defense, and then of course he can dish the rock. 6,600, that's not bad, but I will say Tracy Jackson Davis for two players that kind of do the same thing. Would rather go to Tracy over Poeltl if I have to choose. Grady Dick came on, I want to say the last game, he actually went out there and was looking like he was getting his rhythm, especially from three. 4 of 8 from three, 4 of 11 from the field. Definitely what I like to see, him actually taking some more shots and things like that. If you want to stay close with Golden State, you definitely are going to have to be able to knock down your shot. If you can give me like a Malik Beasley performance where Beasley went out there and dropped 30.5 fantasy points, love the upside, 4,500. This kid was up in the 5K range earlier in the season. Hopefully he can get back to that. Playing at home, maybe that might actually do something for him, some home cooking, things like that. So hopefully we can actually see a pretty decent game. But one of the spots that you can attack Golden State has been at the 2 guard. So Grady Dick, hopefully he can deliver. And then if Quick is out, then of course you are going to want to be looking towards RJ Barrett, 8,200. We do know that's just going to be more shot attempts and everything for Barrett going up out there. Other than that, off the bench, not really chasing anybody. Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, Ochai Agbaji, Chris Bouchard. If you didn't have Chris Bouchard for when he went off for that 46 fantasy points, stop chasing it. Just stop. Unless they are legit committed to giving him more minutes into the 20 range, stop chasing it. Just don't do it to yourself. There's no point. Detroit taking on the New York Knickerbockers. Let's talk about Detroit. Let's talk about Cade Cunningham. Actually finally looking like the player that we were expecting for him to be when he came in, supposedly to be the savior for Detroit. He is finally living up to the hype this season. We know last season definitely riddled with injuries, missed a ton of time, but the consistency that I'm finally seeing from Cade, the aggression, the only thing that Cade has to truly work on is defending without fouling. He does pick up quite a bit of ticky-tacky fouls. Hopefully here in this matchup versus the Knicks, he can go out here and not do that. I will say that he's already played the Knicks twice this season, and both times he has delivered over 40 fantasy points. The most recent matchup, which was in Madison Square Garden, he dropped 71 fantasy points versus them. So the upside 4K, let's see if that game log is actually in here. Yep. They won 120 to 111, 35 minutes, 9 of 17 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3, put on a show in the Garden, 29 points, 15 assists, 10 rebounds, a steal and everything, 71.5 fantasy points. I'm not going to say he can repeat it, but Cade has been on a roll. He has been killing it, and I love what we could possibly get from Cade here. Definitely is someone I'm looking towards playing and going to on today from Detroit. Main de facto, of course, the usage and everything that he has. Now, outside of that, I will say, if you didn't play Tim Hardaway Jr. versus Toronto, whew, That man was on fire from the moment of go. 7 of 8 from the field. Hopefully he can repeat that here today in the Garden, going up against New York. Last matchup versus them, when he did play them earlier this season, he did start. He only gave us 16 fantasy points. Hasn't put up the best numbers. Of course, we do know New York. Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby. Pretty good defensive squad, supposedly. Hopefully Tim can go out here and have a decent night. That would be the 1-2 punch I would look to from Detroit. I'm not really too interested in playing Jalen Duren. I do think he can get himself in foul trouble messing with Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm in Thompson and worried a little bit in regards to that. I'm in Asor Thompson, a little bit worried about that as well for him going up against them for New York. And they're really wishy-washy with his minutes, but wouldn't mind looking towards him as a possible piece that you can look towards. Tobias Harris, think that the matchup going up against OG could be a bit much for him here in the spot. Last time versus New York, when he went out there, looks like he actually missed that game. Nope. 26 minutes, 34 fantasy points. Actually, no, I really do think that he missed that second time that they played them. No, he didn't. Okay. 34 minutes, 25 fantasy points in the second game that they played versus New York, which I must have passed it. Yeah, there we go. 34 minutes, dropped 25 fantasy points. So, not really. I'm not too interested in Tobias. For me, over here on Detroit, it's going to be Cade and it's going to be Tim Hardaway Jr. be my main two, and then a sprinkle of Malik Beasley if I got to choose. Over here on the New York side, depending on the Jalen Brunson news, if Brunson's going to be held out or not. He got off to a hard start, 23 points in the first quarter, blah, blah, blah. Right shoulder injury, driving to the basket early, third quarter. He checked back into the contest. So hopefully he's good to go. If they do decide to rest him here in this spot, then of course that just means that Miles McBride, Cameron Payne will be the main two guys you're going to look to right there. They started Cameron Payne's last time that Miles Bridges missed, but Miles McBride was supposed to start and he just ended up also being ruled out. So depending on who actually gets to start there, you definitely can look towards them. And you can also look towards the player off the bench, because we do know it will be a tight rotation and those guys are going to play the minutes. Now, outside of that, for the other guys over here on New York, it's the same old. Starters play heavy ton of minutes. If the game's going to be close, it's going to be close. We're going to be looking towards Karl-Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart. All three of those guys are in contention to play. First game that Towns played versus Detroit, 27 minutes, dropped 53 fantasy points. Did not play in the second game. Bridges, he's dropped 30 plus fantasy points in both games versus them. Did just play 37 minutes yesterday. So, of course, but you kind of got log heavy minutes whenever you play for Tibbs. And then Josh Hart, he's dropped at least over 30 fantasy points in both games versus them this season. Those will be the main contributors and guys that you want to look to over here from New York. Don't mind them. Not really too interested in OG. He's just been, I'll wait for OG to get hot and then hop back on that wave. Right now, not too interested in going there at all for him. And then, of course, like I said, the bench is not really anything that we have to worry about or focus on. For Memphis taking on Houston, let's talk about another player, Jaren Jackson Jr. The dude's been killing it. 46 fantasy points, 52, 67, 41, 44, 33 points, 21 points, 35 points, 23 points, 28 points. Right now, I say he got a floor of at least 20 points is what he's going to put out there. Versus Houston, the last time that he played them in 34 minutes, dropped 52 fantasy points, 21 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 6 blocks, 2 steals. Defending without fouling has always been an issue and a thing for Jaren Jackson Jr. He's showing he can do it. Love the upside for JJJ here, 9,200. Definitely think that he would be lower owned because you can just go right here and get Ja Morant, who 29 minutes versus Houston dropped 35.75 fantasy points. Of course, the 1-2 punch would be the main two guys I would be looking towards if I'm going to go right here. I will say Josh should be dealing with that Amen Thompson defense, so that would make me lean more towards JJJ when it comes down to going between the two. And we have seen that opposing power forwards versus Houston have actually been doing very well since Jabari Smith Jr. has gone down, and they don't have Tari Eason out there as a backup in regards to trying to defend that position. So upside, really do actually like it for JJJ over Ja if I got to pick between the two. You can try to mess with Desmond Bane. Not a bad spot versus Houston last time. 27 minutes, dropped 30 fantasy points. Coming off for 39.25 versus Minnesota. You can look there. If he gets hot from shooting from 3, you know he's going to give you guys a pretty good night. But not too focused right there on him. And then, of course, you can look towards the bench, towards their other guys like Jaden Wells, Sante Aldama. You can mess with that. We know they're going to get some rotation, this run like that. Other than that, not too interested in too many other pieces over there on that side. On the Houston side, of course, Amen 73. Maybe until this dude gets into like the high 8K range, I'm not gonna worry about him. I will say foul trouble killed him last time versus Memphis. If he can keep himself out of foul trouble, the upside is there for him to go out there and give us a very good fantasy point scoring night, because we know they need him out there on the defensive side. Like, he's the main pedigree in regards to just being a point of attack defender, a very good pass and everything. And we just saw Jaden McDaniels go out here and light up the Memphis Grizzlies for 41 fantasy points. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to go out here and shoot it, lights out, go crazy, do all that, but he is pretty good at getting to the hoop rim with just his athleticism, his speed, and what he brings on the defensive side. Same thing like Jalen McDaniels. If only he did have a reliable three-point shot, that would just be chef's kiss. Now, if they do decide to give Cam Whitmore more minutes, because I know he has a reliable shot, that would be just even better right there. But outside of that, main guys, of course, we're going to be looking towards over here for Houston, which is a lot of it kind of concentrated for them. Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet, Alfred Sengun, which last game versus Houston when he was out here, he dropped 59.5 fantasy points. Looked like he was unstoppable versus Zach Edey, which wouldn't be surprised if he does that again. Edey does kind of have two left feet. If you're not a big natural like center like that, he does kind of struggle versus the smaller ones, agile ones, and ones that can do what Sengun can go out here and do. So upside for Sengun, do like him. If I have to rank the guys, depending on what kind of night we're going to get from Jalen Green, who I know has the green light to just chuck. And if he can go out there and recreate what Dante DiVincenzo just did versus the Grizzlies, I like Jalen Green, 6,800. And sneakily, he's been putting up some really great numbers over his last several games. Like the upside for what we can possibly get from him. Freddie V, depending on if he decides he wants to go out there and have a hot scorching shooting night, I know he can definitely go out there and do the exact same thing. Also playmaking, stuff like that. So both of these guards are definitely in play for me. Like the upside for both of them. If I do got to say, Jalen Green, very much more relying on the scoring and everything. So I'll say he more of a GPP play versus Freddie V, who I know stuffs the stat sheet more areas than one. So that's right there for that. But again, all four of those main guys are going to be in play for me for Houston: Sengun, Amen Thompson, Freddie V, Jalen Green. If I got to rank them, I can't ignore the consistency. It might burn me. He might cool off, but Jalen Green would be one for me. Freddie V would be two. Amen Thompson would be three. And then Sengun, just for the price, would be last when it comes down to it. I do think there's some better, cheaper, like we just said, Tracy Jackson Davis, stuff like that we can get to at the center spot, or maybe we go with the power forward that fits into the center spot like Julius Randle. We got Wemby, AD on the slate later, so I'm gonna have to just put Sengun last. So that would be my order if I was ranking the Houston guys right there. If you think that Amen gets himself into foul trouble, then look towards Cam Whitmore as another play. 3,800 last time playing versus Memphis, 15 minutes, 18 fantasy points. Definitely deserves more minutes than what he's getting, because the dude is a hooper. Definitely goes out there, not too bad from three. Like his upside all the time whenever he's out there on the court. Going on over to our next game, Miami taking on the Los Angeles Clippers, taking on the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard. Of course, not too many games with Kawhi in the lineup yet, but he's back and he's playing. I will say over here for Miami, it's going to be, of course, the main guys, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, the highest usage over here for these guys. Definitely going to be interested to see in regards to what they can do versus them. Bam, it's always a mixing pot in regards to what I get whenever I play him. 8,100. He has had some good games versus Zubac in the past, dropping at least 40 fantasy points versus the Clippers last season. First game versus them this season, I can see yourself going there, or you can mess with Tyler Hero as well, just because, he is going to have to lead this team. They're all the usage with Jimmy Butler being out. I will say I'm kind of more interested in the axillary pieces like a Nikola Jovic. Just for me, the dude's playing pretty heavy minutes off of the bench. So it's not surprising that he's not starting, but he's been a very driving focal point for them. Very much improved. 44 fantasy points his last game, 28, 35. Love him as a value play on today, really, just because those minutes kind of seem secure. Like he's going to get at least 25-ish plus minutes out there for them. Game blows out or not, really do feel like they really do like his energy, his usage, the rebounding upside that he has. He's playing some pretty good defense out there. So I definitely do like that for him. I will say I am going to come up off my boy Jaime Jaquez, just because Kawhi Leonard still one of those perennial defenders that can be disruptive. Don't like him necessarily here in the spot. Do think this might be a tougher matchup for him, especially with, like I said, Kawhi Leonard, Derrick Jones Jr. Being out there, Chris Dunn. Those defenders can definitely mess up the rhythm of Jaime. GPP option if you're a Jaime fan and whatnot. GPP focus for me right there. And then Highsmith, my only issue is 4K, but Jovic is coming off the bench and outplaying him half the time. This game right here versus Portland, too far in between in regards to what he actually can go out there and give us. Yes, he starts. Yes, he's going to play a decent number of minutes, but I'd rather just go ahead and pay up for Nikola Jovic at that same spot versus messing with Highsmith when it comes down to it. Over here on the Clippers side, let me see. Does Kawhi actually have a minutes limit listed for him yet? So in his first two games that he played 19 and then 21 minutes. Maybe he can get up to 25. Of course, straight up just GPP option, even if you're thinking about rostering Kawhi. I don't think that we're there yet to play him. I will say that opposing centers versus Miami have done decent, but Zubac has not versus them last season and the year before. He has not put up over 20 fantasy points versus this team, or over 25 fantasy points versus them. But the metrics say, hey, this is a decent spot for opposing centers. Walker Kessler dropped 30.75. Tracy Jackson-Davis dropped 33.75. Sabonis dropped 70.5. Miles Turner, 37. Shane Goat, 52. Depending on what Zubac comes out here, I don't mind Zubac. I really don't. I don't mind Zubac. Think this could be a game possibly where Zoo can go under the radar, under own, nobody even bats an eye, looks at him, and could go out there and drop us a nice 40 piece and flirt with maybe getting up there towards 50. Double in the cards, maybe some blocks like that, things of that nature. He is playing some pretty decent minutes over here for the Clippers whenever he's out there on the court. We do know Harden likes that pick and roll, and he can dish the rock as well. Plays decent on the defensive side. So Zubac, I would actually have to look his direction, and I don't mind going right there. Outside of that, Harden, if you trust him, then of course, go ahead, play Harden. But I'm not really too interested in playing James Harden. He has had some pretty good games versus Miami in the past, but of course, that was in the past right there for him. Going on over to the last game of the night, we have the San Antonio Spurs taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. Do I really need to talk about Wemby? 11-3 for Wemby. It's Wemby. Last time versus the Lakers, which he's played them already twice this season, 60 fantasy points and then 46 fantasy points the second time. If you can fit up there to him, 11-3. I don't think that we necessarily have to get to Wemby today, but if you want to get up there to him, he's there for a fact. Outside of that, Chris Paul, of course, Devin Vassell, he's been pretty good for these guys over the last couple games. 27, 32, 34, 39, 22 fantasy points. Definitely can go there, mess with that. Outside of that, if Sochan is back, don't mind going to So. But if he's out, then we'll readjust, look and see what else we like. Maybe I could definitely see myself getting to a Kelvin Johnson, Harrison Barnes, just because maybe more of those shots and things will be there for him. But not. Spurs look all right, but not too focused and interested in too much on that side. If I'm getting some for the late night hammer, I really do kind of feel like it's going to be LA just because the usage and everything for them concentrated. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Austin Reeves, and Max Christie, who's been coming on over these last couple games. That's where my focus is going to be over here. And Max Christie is, to me, high value play. Coming on over his last couple games, 21, 27, 18, a 43.25. Of course, yes, that was versus Portland, but still a very good game. And in the games playing versus San Antonio Spurs, in 30 minutes in the first game, he dropped 22 fantasy points. In the second game, he played 22 minutes, dropped 22 fantasy points. All that was coming off the bench. He is starting 4K for a starter going up against the Spurs. If he can play with that same intensity and drive and everything that he's been playing with, love the upside for him as a late night hammer value play that you can get to on today. Again, like I said, other than that, it would be for me Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves. AD versus the Spurs has dropped 65 and 50 fantasy points versus them. So you definitely can go there for that. Austin Reeves, he's been the one that's more wishy-washy in this matchup versus them, giving us only 30 fantasy points. But of course, we know now he's got the keys to the city is pretty much all in his hands. So I definitely can't see going there. And then LeBron, there's no explanation I need to give you in regards to LeBron. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Hopefully you guys were able to get something from this video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any content dropping over here on the channel. And drop a like on this video. If you guys did enjoy it, talk to me down in the comment section. Let me know how you guys' weekend was. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.